Hi, we are the Group 1 and we'll be discussing Lesson 3 Functions of Art and Philosophy. First, we will give you an introduction about our topic for you to have an overview or an idea about what our presentation will be.
What is art and philosophy? Philosophy of art is the study of nature of art. It is closely related to aesthetics, the philosophical study of beauty and taste. So, what is art and philosophy? So, art and philosophy is the combination of both because philosophy, in simple terms, is the study of nature, knowledge, reality, and existence. And art is the expression of creativity and expression of human creative skill. So, philosophy of art is the study of nature of art that includes concepts such as interpretation, representation, expression, and form. It is closely related to aesthetics, which is the philosophical study of beauty and taste. What is the connection between philosophy and art? Philosophy is considered a part of art. Any speculation or insight that enters your mind must attract your attention first, so that you will see it is something interesting and new. After that, you can share it with other people who will decide for themselves if it is interesting for them. What makes philosophy different then? The difference probably lies in the way it captures attention and in what appeals to command attention. It is safe to say that philosophy was the very first art that fed upon and stimulated the curiosity of humans to know how things are. It's the first form of art that appeared after mankind was able to discover that what is not always how it seems. So, philosophy in art plays a role. For example, you see an art that is attractive to you and you share it to your friends knowing that they have the same reaction as you did. But to your surprise, they did not have the same reaction. They don't know why the art is attractive and why you are attracted to it and why you like it. It's because of philosophy. You have different philosophical thinking than them. As we know, philosophy is about knowledge, reality, and existence. You may see or have knowledge of that art. You may see the reality and existence of that art. You may know the nature of that art. That's why you are attracted to it. It is because of philosophy, of how you see things in a philosophical way, and that's how it plays a role in art.
Functions of art. We have here three examples of functions of art: personal, social, and physical functions of art. So first is personal function of art. Personal functions of art are often the most difficult to explain. There are many types of personal function, and these are highly subjective. For example, self-portrait painting that describe a emotional time in the artist's life. Just for example of this art by Jacques Rousseau. Uh, he made a quote for his artwork. He said that never exceed your rights and the will soon become unlimited. So second is function of art. Social function of art when it addresses aspects of collective life as opposed to one person point of view or experience. Viewers can often relate in some way to social art and are sometimes even influenced by it. Um, for example, yearbook and family portrait. So this portrait of Queen Victoria of England made in 1846 by Franz Xaver Winterhalter. So, third is physical function of art. Physical function of art are often the most easiest to understand works of art that are created to perform some service and physical function of art. So, for example, expression of the imagination, communication, entertainment, and social causes. So, this art has combined a variety of precious materials to create a unique necklace. So, last is other function of art. I have here two examples of other function of art. Art of social causes, art for psychological and healing purposes. So first is art of social causes. It is used to raise for awareness to a large variety of causes. A number of art activities were aimed to raising awareness of autism, cancer, human trafficking, and a variety of other topics, such as ocean conservation, human rights in Darfur, murdered and missing Aboriginal women, elder abuse, and pollution. For example, poverty, climate change, immigration, terrorism, and drug abuse. Second is art for psychological and healing purposes. It is used by an art therapist, psychotherapist, and clinical psychologist as art therapy. For example, it is used to determine the personal and emotional function of a patient. The end product is not the principal goal in this case, but rather a process of healing through creative acts. The resultant piece of artwork may also offer insight into the troubles experienced by the subject and may suggest suitable approaches to be used in more conventional forms of psychiatric therapy.
Hello everyone, my name is Bon Angelo Comendador and these are the theories that may be used in analyzing art. The first one is imitationalism. Imitationalism refers to art that focuses on things being realistically represented. Imitationalism is theory of art that judges artwork based on how real it looks. An imitationalist artist focuses on mimicking and representing real life. In a successful piece of art, the texture, light, and shadows, human proportions, and perspective are all highly realistic, as if you could reach them. A very famous example is the painting by Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa. Next is formalism. Formalism is the study of art by analyzing and comparing form and style. Its discussion also includes the way objects are made and their purely visual or material aspects. A formalist artist focuses on an artwork's form, the way it is made, and what it looks like. In a successful piece of art, the visual features are most important. Line quality, color, composition, and other artistic elements and principles. Next one is emotionalism. Emotionalism, an aesthetic and critical theory of art which places emphasis to the expressive qualities. According to this theory, the most important thing about a work of art is the vivid communication of moods, feelings, and ideas. An emotionalist artist focuses on the expression of emotion. A successful piece of art communicates an emotion, but more importantly, it pulls out the emotion reaction from the viewer.
Let's go to the next topic. What are the philosophical perspective on art? First, art as an imitation. Most artists nowadays, writer, painters, sculpturists, the one who draws, and every artist, they drew inspiration to some arts that are already present or created by some artists, and sometimes they tend to imitate. According to Plato in his work The Republic, he paints a picture of artist as imitator and art as mere imitation. When we say imitation, it's more of an inspiration in creating the whole art. In his description of the ideal republic, Plato advises against the inclusion of art as a subject in the curriculum in the banning of artists in the republic. But again, in his work in Metaphysics, or View of Reality, the things in this world are only copies of the original, the eternal and the true entities that can only be found in the world of forms. For example, the chair that one sits on is not really a chair. It's an imperfect copy of the perfect chair in the world of forms. So according to Plato, there is actually two worlds. Number one is the Republic, where everything is just an imitation from the real world. Plato was deeply suspicious of arts and artists for two reasons. So he actually questioned them. He was very suspicious of the arts and the artists. Number one reason is they appeal to the emotion rather than to the rational faculty of men. When we say rational faculty of men, it is our ability to think, and being rational is the only thing that separate us or differentiate us from animals. Next is they appeal more on the emotion. If we think of it every time that we hear a sad music, Moira's music, or a happy music, it really affects our emotion. When we see someone dancing, especially K-pop songs or in TikTok, we tend to actually imitate them as well, follow the steps. They imitate rather than to lead to reality. Poetry rouses emotion and feelings, thus clouds rationality of people. There was even a saying, don't make a decision if you are angry or sad because it will cloud your wise judgment or wise decision. So don't actually do that. Art is just an imitation of imitation, right? Painting is just an imitation of, for example, nature. We cannot just put nature in a small canva. So it is just an imitation. We are just giving them just our presentation of the whole scene or the real scenario. A painting is just an imitation, and nature is also just an imitation of reality of the world of forms. Then again, it's according to Plato. Art is then to be banished alongside the practitioners so that the attitudes and actions of the members of the republic will not be corrupted by the influence of the arts. So it's what they believe that's the case. The masterpieces of famous painters and sculpture from the past years are present up to this day. Lastly, for Plato, art is dangerous because it provides a petty replacement for the real entities that can only be attained through reason. Next is art as a representation. Aristotle agreed with Plato that art is a form of imitation. However, according to Aristotle, he considers art as an aid to philosophy in revealing the truth. The kind of imitation that art does is not antithetical. When we say antithetical, it means directly opposite. So, it is not antithetical to the reaching of the fundamentals truth of the world. Unlike Plato, who thought art is an imitation of another imitation, Aristotle conceived art as representing possible version of reality. So it's just a little difference. And to make it clear, in Plato's beliefs, it's like a copycat copies a copycat, and while in Aristotle's belief, for him, all kinds of art do not aim to represent reality as it is. It endeavors to provide a version of what might be or the myriad possibilities of reality. Here is an example, which is the portrait of Mona Lisa painted by Leonardo da Vinci. There are articles that says that Mona Lisa is actually Leonardo da Vinci. They say that he could have just painted himself as a girl. So in 2010, Italian scientists proposed exhuming the artist's remains to reconstruct his face and compare it with the one in the portrait. But sadly, the request wasn't granted because, according to one of the authorities, the exhumation wouldn't likely uncover the truth behind the Mona Lisa. In the Aristotelian worldview, art serves two particular purposes. Number one, art allows for the experience of pleasure. Horrible experience can made an object of humor. It allows us experience pleasure of happiness. Just like what happened recently in the Oscars Academy Awards, it was clearly a horrible experience to both sides. But now different memes, videos about it, which is also considered to be art, are all over the social media. Two, art also has an ability to be instructive and teach its audience about life. It's cognitive. When we say cognitive, it's about using our mind. We think. So yeah, I may have agreed to this one because sometimes when you are watching a movie or you are in a museum, it somehow teach us about life, history, philosophy, and many more. It could really teach us anything, and if you allow yourself to dig deeper into the actual concept of that specific artwork. Next, art as a disinterested judgment. The philosopher that we have here is Immanuel Kant. In his Critique of Judgment, which is actually his work, he considers the judgment of beauty, the cornerstone of art, as something that can be universal, despite of its subjectivity. We already know that art is subjective sometimes and it can also be objective. And according to him, we just have the same interpretation of beauty, despite the fact that it is subjective. Kant recognized that judgment of beauty is subjective. However, even subjective judgment are based on some universal criteria for the said judgment. That's why we have criteria for judging, like in every pageant or every competition, there is what we call criteria for judging. Even in reporting, right, we have criteria. Okay, so in art, as a disinterested judgment, the question you just have to remember here is how and in what sense can a judgment of beauty, which is ordinarily considered to be subjective, feeling be considered objective or universal? The last one, art is a communication of emotion. Art appeals into our emotion and feeling. Now we have another great philosopher, Leo Tolstoy. And according to him, art plays a huge role in communication to its audience emotions that the artist previously experienced. So I don't know if you are watching interviews or vlogs, but I guess yes, because most of us really do that, especially if it's our favorite artist. Artists like singers or composers, about how they were able to compose their songs. And sometimes they just had a breakup. Like, here's an example: Taylor Swift. When she broke up with Taylor Lautner, she were able to come up or write her song back to December. So again, it appeals really into our emotion. It communicates the emotion of the artist to the audience, just like the composer of the song or the singer of the song to its listeners. So the same as language that enable people to communicate, art communicates emotions. It's like the artist are actually letting us feel his or her emotion through her or his artwork or masterpiece. So that's art as a communication. And that would be all for lesson 3, functions of art and philosophy. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for listening.